Welcome to a conversation with a community leader sponsored by Leadership Kitsap, of which both my guest today and I have been on the board or are on the board. I think my guest was actually a graduate of Leadership Kitsap. And I'm your host, Cary Bozeman, and I'm the former mayor of the city of Bremerton, and I'm currently a Port of Bremerton commissioner. And it's my pleasure to welcome my guest and community activist and leader, Tracy Flood, today. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Good to be here.
Thank you for being my guest. Before we start talking about any of your various activities, where are you from and what brought you to Kitsap County?
Well, Cary, I am originally from Chicago, and I served in the United States Navy active duty, joining the Navy when I turned 17 to help pay for college. So Sub-Base Bangor was my duty station here. And after I finished my active duty time and entered the reserves, I decided to stay and went to Olympic College.
Were you born in Chicago?
Yes, born and raised.
You have family there?
I do. I lost my mom to breast cancer. My dad is there, and my older sister, my older brother, I moved out here about 3 years ago because of some medical issues. And actually, my younger sister, who I raised, went to Bremerton High School, and she's now in Nashville. Yeah.
Well, I went to Chicago. I think I spent a day in Chicago interviewing for a job once. It was in July. It was about 98 degrees with humidity about. So they called me and did offer me the job. It was running the Chicago Boys and Girls Club. It's a big organization. And I just thought I do not want to spend the summer in Chicago. So I didn't take the job, which was a great thing to do. What was your Navy experience like?
Oh, I enjoyed my time in the Navy. I actually, yesterday going through some things, I ran across my recruiter book that kind of took, it was kind of our yearbook. Once we graduated, every recruit was given a yearbook. And looking back at my time at what was NTC Orlando, which is no longer there, was probably at 17 years old, felt like the hardest thing that I would ever have to accomplish or do in my life. But understanding that it was a season from San Diego, I went to, from Orlando, NTC, I went to San Diego, NTC for school. And I actually got to work for one of the first Black Rear Admirals there while I was in school. And I actually went in to be a mess specialist, understanding hotel and motel management and that skill set. So I got to do lots of private parties and things. I graduated from there, went on to Naval Air Station Chase Field, which is probably about an hour outside of Corpus Christi. 2 hours outside.
I lived in Corpus Christi when I was a young boy.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful area. Again, the Naval Air Station Chase Field is no longer there, but just had a great experience with my chain of command prior to my time transferring up to Washington, where I was basically able to be mentored by both civilians and military, encouraged to continue my education pursuits, and just given a lot of encouragement. I was the youngest sailor at Naval Air Station Chase Field, and
oh, really?
Yeah. So the training wing was for upcoming pilots, and so being on a training base, they actually.
How long did you stay in the Navy?
I was in 8 years.
8 years. Yeah. Wow. Did you start your legal education in the Navy?
So I started working on my 2-year degree while I was in Texas. And then when I transferred here, I continued the pursuit of my 2-year degree at Olympic College, attending classes at night, the same that I did in Texas as well. And then eventually moving to become a daytime student and getting involved with student government at Olympic College. I actually ended up being the graduation speaker for the year that I graduated.
That doesn't surprise me. Where'd you get your law degree?
I went to Seattle University. I was the last graduating class in Tacoma before the law school moved up to Seattle. So the law school originally started off as University of Puget Sound, and was downtown Tacoma in the same building as the Court of Appeals and the Department of Assigned Counsel. So a lot of students who attended school while it was in Tacoma felt like we had a direct connection to the Court of Appeals and the Public Defense Office, and being able to get internships and jobs.
What do you think inspired you to go into law?
I was inspired as a young girl watching Claire Huxtable on the Cosby Show. It was the dream of having a family, being a lawyer, and being setting myself out as an example and having that example in front of me. So one of the things that growing up in Chicago, I had a lot of African-American teachers of color who encouraged, and we did projects around leaders of color. And there was a lot of diversity around. So when I saw that, it was very inspiring.
Mm-hmm. What area did you practice in law?
So after graduating from Seattle University, I became a public defender at Crawford, McGilliard, Peterson, Yellish, and Dixon in Port Orchard, and spent pretty much every day in the courtroom as the public defender for those first-time felony offenses on the Superior Court in custody and out of custody calendars. After a period of time, I've worked in different venues as a pro tem judge. And then I also worked for the federal government with the Department of Labor in a quasi-judicial role as a administrative adjudicator. Then working a little bit of time with the elderly population through the Department of Labor, those that have worked for the Department of Energy, when you think about in Eastern Washington, Hanford. So special projects like that. And talking to those clients and realizing their challenges, I went back and got my LLM in elder law. And
what's LLM?
My legal master's degree. So specializing in a specific field around elder law, everything from your healthcare directives all the way up to long-term care planning for Medicaid and Medicare. And I received my LLM in December of 2019.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
So you've been someone that's constantly upgraded your education and what you want to do in life and all that kind of stuff. Well, are you still practicing? I assume you are.
Yes. After finishing up my LLM, or like just before, I opened up my law office again, downtown Bremerton, and I'm actually at 245 4th Street.
I know, I saw that on your bio. You're probably in my old office there.
Yes.
So
it was really great too, because
a good friend of mine owns that building, Ron Sheriff.
Okay, so Chuck Henderson, who manages, said,
Nice.
"Oh, this is Cary Bozeman's old office." I said, "Really cool."
I bet you got all my old furniture and everything that was already in there.
Yeah, everything was there, nice setup.
I know.
So I'm so appreciative for you leaving everything set up for me.
Hey, listen, let's transition from your legal life and what you do to all this stuff you do in the community.
Okay.
I'm really interested in having a conversation about the NAACP.
Okay.
For those who aren't as familiar with that, everybody knows what that organization is. How would you describe the mission of the NAACP?
So the NAACP is the oldest civil rights organization around, and our mission is one purpose focused, and that is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of all. And it is not an organization that if you're not African American, you can't join. Any and everyone is welcome to join. We're based on membership Membership is $30 a year. And we have different committees on a national level that includes federal advocacy, education, criminal justice, health, environmental and climate justice, as well as economic justice. So those are our areas of focus from our national office. And locally, our branch, which is Bremerton Branch, Unit 1134, we cover all of Kitsap. And we also cover Jefferson and Mason counties because we're the only branch on the peninsula. So any branch that is in that particular region, if there isn't a different branch or unit within a certain mile radius, then that unit is responsible for that entire area. So
the units aren't usually countywide; they're various geographic areas.
yes, yes. Mm-hmm. So the branch is Bremerton specific, but the unit is covers the entire peninsula area.
How many members do you have?
We are just hitting around 200 now, and our membership increases every day. So we are we've moved into a different category. I think when I first became president, we sat at around 75 members, and now we've increased it over time.
What are the big challenges that we face in this community for our disadvantaged or I don't know, the words get so political these days, for our people of color in this community, for people that you represent at the NAACP? What are the big challenges we face out there, Tracy?
The biggest challenges is understanding that as the underrepresented population and people of color, and the most common term now is BIPOC community. And everything that they're subjected to is a living wage, affordable housing, and access. And as an attorney, we deal with access to justice on both the criminal setting as well as on the civil setting. In criminal cases, there's a statute that allows for you to have an appointed counsel. Under civil, when you're going through a divorce or you're going through simple things like a need of a restraining order and even rental, when you're talking about evictions and you're facing evictions, maybe you fixed up your apartment, and there was a slum landlord. There things on both sides, but you're not entitled to an attorney on that civil side of things. And a lot of underrepresented and minority communities, and also put low income, and that can be no matter what nationality or ethnicity they are. If you're low income, you are being put into a population where affording to be in the courthouse or access to the courthouse is restricted to you. You may feel restricted. You may feel like you don't have any options. There are services like Columbia Legal Services and Northwest Justice Project that provide certain assistance on some of those issues, but even figuring out how to access those organizations is a challenge to those that are underrepresented.
We hear a lot about the words equity, inclusion, opportunity when it comes to our disadvantaged communities. How do you describe what that means?
Some people trying to think of them as the same thing, but just to draw a visual, you can have two people that are in a relay race. And if you have one person of color in the relay race and one Caucasian in the relay race, and along the relay race, you look out at the field and you see obstacles of family, childcare, jobs, hourly rate, and all kinds of garbage in front of the person who's running the race for the African American person. And you see a clear path for the Caucasian person that includes family support, wealth, inheritance. That's not a level playing field. So because they're on the same track, there is equal access to the race, but there's not equity in the race because the path has not been cleared for both of them to just be able to run the race without there being things that come up and things that exist. So that's the difference as far as equality and equity. So you often hear that you want to see more diversity on boards and a seat at the table for there to be voices at the table. We can't deal with equity until we learn and have some equality in positions and leadership to be able to address those issues.
Yes,
yeah,
I agree with that. But just on a side note, I'm part of a mixed racial family. My daughter married a wonderful African American man, and I have two grandkids, and my granddaughter went on to the university and got her doctorate. And she's a geophysicist.
Oh wow.
And works for Exxon in Houston.
Okay.
And my grandson is doing kind of legal work, and I have a great grandson now who is doing great, and we're about ready to have a second great grandson. And I remember my daughter coming home, and she was dating this young man, African American man, and he played on my baseball team. I coached the high school baseball. And I said, which one of my players do you love the most? You like the most? And she told me, and then 2 or 3 years later, she said, we're going to get married. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, there are going to be challenges. Mm-hmm. And this was back, because she's 56 now, so this was back quite a while ago. Okay. And there were, but you know what she said to me? I said, there are people out there who are not going to be comfortable with you sometimes. And she said, Dad, those aren't my values. I'm sorry. I know what my values are, and I'm living them. And yada, yada. And she taught me a lot. And being part of this family has taught me a lot. And so in my work as mayor of Bellevue, I started the first culture diversity task force that ever happened. This was back in the mid-'80s. Because I could see we were becoming more diverse. And we hadn't talked about it. And all the power structure in the city was white men, and and I said, this isn't just a cultural issue, this is an economic issue.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I remember a firm that was predominantly Japanese people were looking to relocate. There was like 700 employees, and it was either going to be Bellevue or Seattle, and they said, we're not coming to Bellevue. We don't think you're ready culturally for our employees.
Right.
We're predominantly Asian. And now half of Bellevue is people of color in the school district. And it's working great. And so I've got a lot of history with this issue. So and I'm proud of it. Hey, is there anything with how does the NAACP, how do you finance whatever you're trying to do?
So we are a membership-based organization. The NAACP is a nonpartisan organization, as our empowerment programs come under a 501c3, and then our branches, just our everyday business, comes under 501c4. So we do you have fundraising? Yes, we do have. Yes. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we were unable to do our annual fundraiser, which was established on a national level, which we call our annual Freedom Fund Banquet, where we do awards and community awards and recognitions.
Right.
We've had great speakers in the past, our Supreme Court justices, Mary Yu, Justice Gonzalez, different speakers around from on a statewide basis. And then we have dinner, and it's been one in which it's almost considered like a family reunion of the different communities coming together.
Was my old friend Larry Robertson, who passed away, was he an active member of the NAACP?
He was very active. He actually swore me in for my first election. Yes.
Well, he married me and my wife. So that was cool. I miss him every day.
Yes. He's very much missed in our community.
He was,
Yes.
well, you know, communities need leaders. You're a leader, but leaders are they're they're valuable people,
Yes.
and he was a leader in our community,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it's been a big loss
Yes.
for our
Yes.
community. I want to move on for a minute, unless you have one last thing that we haven't talked about the NAACP that you want to make sure something gets said.
The only other thing I would add is letting people know that we are an active branch and that our website contains all the information that you can do to attend our Zoom calls as well as our Facebook. And we've had a great partnership with Olympic College, where that's where we hope when we do get to go back to in-person meetings, our partnership with them has allowed for us to have our general body meetings with them, as well as our annual community and law enforcement dinner that we hold at the Fireside Bistro at Olympic College.
Okay, gosh, this time is going so fast. I want to spend a minute. I know you're the president of the board of Kitsap Community Resources,
Yes.
which is an incredible, important organization in our community in providing service to kids, disadvantaged people, housing. I mean, it just goes
Yes.
on and on.
Yes.
So I know they've had, because I'm now a new board member, so I know some of this. You've had a transformation. You've had Larry Iyer, who was our executive director for 30
long time
years,
executive director. Yes.
retired, and we've run through a couple of new directors, and it hasn't worked for whatever reason. So, what do you see as the future now of KCR coming up?
So
How do you move forward?
So we're moving forward just in a very looking at being effective and efficient and how we go forward in our next selection for our new executive director. And we're going to do a statewide search. We've put together a hiring committee and we're really excited about that. We're working as a tripartite board. We have community members, elected members, as well as those that would fit in the low income category, students, those that are receiving services. And we're just filling those spots and continuing with the mission of offering the services throughout the county. And that includes being able to take your GED testing. That's a lab, that is accessible to the public if you need to use a computer to do resumes, skill sets. Also, we have the wonderful, ECAP program, as well as housing assistance, rental assistance. And there's different levels of that for military, non-military community. So there are so many programs available within Kitsap Community Resources that we're looking to do more outreach into the community, let people know of our resources that are there and tap into the needs, and working in partnership with our other like-minded organizations. So I look forward to the year ahead being just sworn in. I say sworn in, just elected as the board president for the year ahead, and just making sure that we meet the needs of the community and continue to stay focused on our mission to serve.
I know when I was the mayor of the city, I knew what KCR was doing, and I knew about their mission, and I thought, oh my gosh, if they weren't here, how would the city even think about providing these services? We couldn't. So it's just such an important program in our city. And I think the organizations received some CARES money and that kind of thing.
Yes.
For housing.
So the funding for Kitsap Community Resources is what I would say government-based grants on the federal level, state level, local government level. And we also have a program that's Christmas Angel. We do receive private donations from community members, and that helps us to provide this community event on an annual basis, which gives Christmas gifts to families in need. And I know that this last December, because of COVID, things were done by appointment, and the families and the number of people served was just an outpouring, and just a great number of families and children being able to be reached.
Tracy, you're the president of a board of two really important organizations in this community. something must drive you to that kind of service. What do you say your core values are about who you are? What are the values that you hold dear in your life?
I have always looked at to whom much has been given, much is required. That is something that I hold near and dear and close to my heart. And that to me means that while I grew up in the inner city, I went to one of the top high schools. I got to be to work as a candy striper to see if I wanted to be in the medical field. There were so many programs available to me through the city, and then opportunities through the Navy, that my service to others and wanting to give back to the community that I'm in, as because my heart is here, I'm invested here, and there just needs to be that work ethic of, if you're seeing that there's a missing or a gap somewhere, if you have the skills to fill that gap, it's not to sit back and to talk about it, but to be action oriented and to fill those gaps where needed.
Well, you're also a lifelong learner. That's pretty obvious.
Yes.
You know, this year I celebrate my 50th year in public service, and I tell people I've enjoyed going to work every day of my life, and that's what you do too. Because I know every day you go to work, you probably feel value in what you're doing.
Yes.
So I want to thank you for that service. I didn't even have time to talk about that you were in Leadership Kitsap, which
yes, 2017. I was a graduating the class of
2017 Leadership Kitsap. And Katie Walters, who's our executive director, made sure to tell you hello.
Okay.
She's a big fan of yours.
Thank you.
That's about. I think we're about out of time, and our director is going to get mad at me. Do about 3 of these, Tracy.
Yes.
But I've enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for what you do for our community every single day.
And thank you for having me on and to have this conversation. Much appreciated. And I enjoy what I do. It brings me joy to be able to
I always
others.
tell people, people like you and I, we get more out of it than we put in.
Yes.
Okay, with that thought, that will end our program. This has been a conversation with another one of our community leaders, and I will see you next time on a conversation with a community leader soon. Thank you. Thanks, Tracy.
Thank you.
Leadership Kitsap is our community's civic leadership program. Leadership Kitsap fosters and empowers educated, prepared, and engaged community leaders. For over 25 years, we have cultivated leaders that work collaboratively to create positive change, dedicated to making our community a better place to work and live. We expose our class to Kitsap's leaders across public, private, and nonprofit sectors. We're happy to bring many of the conversations with these leaders to you. Strong leaders build strong communities.